Welcome to the Yeah We Know podcast, or You Know's podcasting network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Chris, and Rod. And Chris, if you could pick someone to make out with in front of 10,000 people,
Liv Morgan would be it.
who would be above Dominic Mysterio?
I mean, talk about dirty Dom Sanchez Mysterio.
You filth ball. Rod, I have not seen a better tweet than I did from Dom Mysterio, which basically he said, F word, I believe, a little meme there. Stuff's going to hit the fan, and it's going to be fantastic. Your girl's dead. Your girl's dead.
Listen, as somebody who grew up back in the day, who watched a wrestling event that ended with a wedding between Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth, right? Then when Macho Man got Miss Elizabeth back, I think it might have been the first time I ever shed a tear about a fake storyline in my entire life. I also remember Jake the Snake Roberts crashing a party before the wedding with the snake. I mean, we just got a lot of good use out of relationships back in the day of the WWF. It was then, now the WWE. So I'm all for it. I'm not as worried for our girl Liv Morgan right now, because with Becky Lynch away and Rhea Ripley away, Liv Morgan's going to get a chance to shine. So if she's going to shine for a few months, move up the ladder, and then get beat down, such is the game, Jim.
I like that. I like that a lot. Chris King, Overreaction Wednesday here. I don't think we're going to see Becky Lynch until the Royal Rumble, if at all. What are your thoughts there? Because for those of you who don't know, and Chris, you may not be one of them, Becky Lynch has not signed her contract with WWE.
I was not aware of that. If she hasn't signed her contract, then I definitely could see a hiatus coming in her future. I don't know where they would go for her. She lost the belt in Saudi Arabia. Lost it again in the cage match. Where does she go from here? According to WWE rules that we've been told the last couple of weeks, if you don't when you get your shot and you don't succeed, you go to the back of the line. So Becky's at the back of the line, right?
Well, and Rod, the good news is WWE has never gone back and forth on that rule. So that is a really good call.
Yeah, the WWE is known for steadfastly holding to all of their rules. None of them ever get changed. None of them ever get thrown out in the middle of a match. Like, apparently, Cody Rhodes can just tell the ref not to count somebody out because he doesn't want to win a match that way. So, I mean, we can just toss the rules out whenever we want to. So, I'm not as worried about all of that. I'm just not. Go Liv. That's what I say, Jimmy. We have to embrace the Liv Morgan of it all here. So, go Liv. Let's go.
I think, and yeah, I know we're kind of bouncing around, but that's what we're going to do today. Just going to bounce around a little bit here and there. But I think the Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, I said your girl's dead. Your boy is dead as well. Rhea Ripley is going to come back in a force that we have never seen. And, gentlemen, she will be the number one babyface in the company when that happens, Chris King.
Yeah, I say let's do that because I actually think and am enjoying what Damian Priest is doing with the Judgment Day. I am. I don't think the Judgment Day needs Rhea Ripley back in their ranks anymore. Let her go be the babyface. I think Damian as a heel champion is doing really good. I liked what he did Monday night.
Mm-hmm. Is he the heel though? Like, he was almost like, I couldn't tell who was the heel in that, Jim.
Yeah, it was kind of strange how they did it. I think that they're kind of slowly, I mean, they've been doing it for a while, but he may go babyface here, which is going to be an interesting dynamic, especially because we finally figured out, last week we weren't sure, but now we know the king and queen of the ring get a title shot at SummerSlam, and I think they should have really pushed that more throughout this whole tournament instead of just the last little while. But Gunther will get his shot at Damian Priest at SummerSlam. I think it's time. Well, thank you, whoever gave me a thumbs up. I appreciate that. I think that it's time. I think Gunther gets the title at SummerSlam, Rod.
Yeah, I mean, listen, me and Chris both were on this podcast saying, let's put Gunther on the rocket ship, right? Soon after WrestleMania, right? Or even before WrestleMania, we were saying, let's get the belt off him and let's put Gunther on the rocket ship. So I'm all for it. I kind of, sort of, maybe wish it was more against Cody Rhodes because I find myself joining the train of let's get the belt off of Cody. I'm not sure we have a great story to tell with the belt on Cody. So Gunther taking it from him, that to me just opens up a lot of juicy, cool angles, a few callbacks all milked in right there. But, we split them up. They're on different shows. So what are you going to do? So I guess Damian Priest, here's what I worry about though, Jimmy. We saw Damian Priest as the Archer of Infamy. That was kind of a baby face that it didn't really work. He got the U.S. Championship belt, and then people were kind of like, we don't really care about you.
Well, but it's kind of
wait a minute. I got to step in here because you guys are forgetting about my boy, Drew McIntyre. Come SummerSlam, the belt is going to be around Drew's waist, all right? He's going to have to go through Drew for that belt. I think you guys are overlooking a little bit of what may happen in Scotland, all right? We've already seen belts change hands. Big belts change hands in foreign countries this year. I think you can see it again in Scotland.
So, but what happens though if McIntyre wins that, CM Punk wins Money in the Bank, but then McIntyre and Gunther have to fight each other at SummerSlam? Where that's a lot of confusion in there, which kind of makes me think that he's not going to win it, Chris.
Can we make plans that involve CM Punk being in a ring performing? Because I don't think we've been able to do that yet.
Yikes.
Preach, Chris. Priest, come aboard.
Well, we've seen a lot of injuries recently. I don't know if you've seen X with Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, jumped off the top of a steel cage, and you know how some people jump off and you jump off onto a table and you jump onto something and it goes through the table. He just jumped off and landed feet first. I don't know what he was trying to do. He did break his leg though, so he's going to be out for a very long time because he needs surgery. We've seen a lot of other injuries recently as well. Jumping off top ropes on the announce tables. My question to you, Rod, is it really worth it now to do all that at these types of shows where, well, it might be a big show, you're still not getting any more money. The ratings really don't matter. The attendance doesn't matter. Rod, is it worth it? It's not worth it for Rod. Chris, is it worth it?
I really want to say yes, but I don't think I can. I'm too old of a man now, okay? So, I don't like getting hurt myself. So, I would say if it's not for additional money, if I'm not getting additional hazard pay, then why would it be worth it? But, man, is it fun to watch as a spectator.
It was. Rod, are you back? Rod is just going to stare at us for the rest of the time here. Unfortunately, Rod may have to get out and get back in, but he's not in there. How dare Chris King? How dare Braun Breaker ruin Dragunov and Ricochet? What a jerk he is.
I mean, isn't that what we want Braun to be? That's what I've been told that he is. He's
not
somebody
that match, though. Not that match.
We already see that match in the King of the Ring tournament.
Yeah, I guess.
So let's have a little bit more chaos. I enjoy it. You got a guy that's not controllable, coming, supposed to be suspended, not even supposed to be around, coming through and just wreaking havoc throughout all of the WWE.
Yeah, I don't like it very much. Rod, what are your thoughts? Are you back yet?
I finally can hear. I went out on Adam Copeland. You guys talking about the
is it worth it? Is it worth it, Rod?
I saw this news come across. I saw some of the spots. You tell me all the time, Jim, that these guys love it. It's in their blood. We should let them go out the way they want to go out and telling the stories that they want to tell. But man, I said it at the time, right? The WWE is clearly the bigger deal, clearly the more exposure, clearly more people associate professional wrestling with it still at this day. And you're a guy at Edge's advanced age. Do you really want to be doing that for the second-rate company? I mean, I wouldn't, but God bless Edge, I guess. That's why people love him.
Well, he actually even said in his X kind of soliloquy that he forgot he was 50. again, and he just jumped off and did nothing there. Yeah, I don't know. I go back and forth a lot because, yeah, if they want to do it, that's great, but something that Edge hasn't really done, and he wanted to make the match a little bit more special. Gangrel showed up. That's special enough, people. That's all I'm going to say on there. Chris, I need an old man take from you from the past couple of days, and then we'll talk a little bit about King and Queen of the Ring. What's an old man take, bud?
An old man take would be more. And I know we've seen this, but I want more of it. All right, I want more Sheamus, Donnybrook style fights in the back in the equipment room. I don't care who it is. If it's, I really don't care. Give me more Kale Dixon out there, all right, and I can see. I'll watch that fight. But
You
give
love
me
Kale
more Sheamus in the back, Donnybrook style, beating up people in street clothes.
So you want Ludwig Kaiser to just be bloodied all up from all the chops, huh?
Exactly, right? Who doesn't want that?
Well, I think, Rod, we're a pro Sheamus podcast here, right?
For sure. I also am somebody who's been pro Ludwig Kaiser. I told you, hey, don't be so sure to throw this guy out on the street along with his ex tag team partner there, Giovanni Vinci, who is now no longer in the WWE. Because I think Ludwig's got something. He can talk. He's got presence. You pay attention to him. He looks like $1 million damn dollars. Let's go. Anybody that gets in a battle with Sheamus, I'm a fan because Sheamus is that perfect professional wrestler who will walk up to you, show you his bright white chest, and say, this is your canvas from which you can work. And it absolutely works every time he goes in the ring.
King and Queen of the Ring from Saudi Arabia. We have a new Queen of the Ring, and that is Nia Jax, who almost killed Ms. Valkyrie there at the very end.
No, Jimmy, let's not gloss over that because you talk about this all the time. Like, what in the world was going on there? Who screwed that up? Was that Nia again? Does she just continue to screw these up?
I don't know why you don't hold on to the top rope when you do that. You need to stop your momentum a little bit. Yeah, it looks great because it actually hurts. Yeah, I don't know why they continue to do that. And I know that she's a force. She's but I don't think people care about her, Chris, and that's what worries me with that.
Like, I get that it looked botched and everything, but let's not forget that girl was back wrestling 2 days later stateside on Raw.
Correct. Yeah, no question. But I'm just saying in general, it's weird. That girl, by the way.
You want me to call her Bird Person? I can.
Well, now it is. Bird Person was back in wrestling, but it's just one of those things where I'm not seeing the direction here. It's just a quick little thing. We'll get to Balls and Brew in the fast break in a minute. Cody Rhodes, Logan Paul.
Bird Person. He said Bird Person. I got a bird jersey.
Gotcha. Cody Rhodes, Logan Paul kind of went how we kind of figured it would go there. Had a really nice Logan Paul spot off the top rope. Shocking we get that. Listen, Logan Paul's a professional wrestler. Cody Rhodes a professional wrestler. They both do they both did what they needed to do.
Producing great matches too, apparently Logan Paul is, right? Because he then leaked on X a few days later that he'd actually been thinking about that drone spot for like a year, and then they finally were able to work it in because they'll let you do anything in Saudi Arabia as long as you're not showing women's bare shoulders. As long as you're not showing women's bare shoulders,
unless it's on a private beach, then you're fine. If it's on a private beach and there's a cameraman and there's literally no one behind you, perfectly fine.
Right. Chris. The drones, bring those in. Let's go.
Yeah,
let's do all of it. And it was a wonderful spot, right? Like Chris said, he talked about how this is what I worry about with Logan here, Jimmy, now is we have the formula, right? Because Chris talked about how what I said Logan was going to do in this match was exactly what he said Logan was going to do in another match, which is what Logan did. So clearly now we have the formula. He's going to come out, talk big, look good, and lose. So we're going to need something else at some point, I think.
And another thing, he needs to get a few wins because we want LA Knight to beat him. Because I think that was going to get LA Knight back to where he needs to go, Chris. But we need to have Logan Paul win some matches as well.
Yeah, I would like to see Logan Paul take out a couple more people before he gets taken down by LA Knight.
SummerSlam? Okay.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, I think the U.S. title is a perfect belt for our boy LA Knight. All right, we've had a couple of the stare downs in the hallway backstage between the two. We know that they're going to be great on the mic against each other going back and forth. I mean, that is just money right there for the WWE.
It is another money match. Gunther versus Randy Orton. I really hate when they do these, like, not really botched finishes, but botched finish just for a storyline. it really didn't hurt Orton at all to lose that match, and obviously they're going to have a rematch here, probably. I would assume in a castle or maybe even Germany as well. Whatever. Gunther's your king of the ring, and I think that's who needed to win it.
Jimmy, if you'd allow me to do a bit of a Rodnation here, I don't know if there's one particular writer on the WWE roster that loves knee injuries, but I mean, we have gone out of control with the kayfabe knee injuries. I don't believe Bianca Belair has wrestled a match in a month and a half where we haven't tried to say that she's had some type of a gimpy knee, right? We're having Braun Strowman getting chopped down by his knees, right? I mean, just too many knee things going on. And you said it yourself, Jimmy. Randy Orton has been in the game a long time. He's going to end his career with a bunch of L's, losing that match fair and square and not having to throw in this garbage about a knee injury that all of us don't buy into anyway serves no purpose. Get rid of the fake injuries. No, get rid of the fake injuries, Jim. That's my Rod of Nation.
Okay, this is why there needs to be an investigation, all right? Why do you have general managers telling people like Drew McIntyre that he can't wrestle with a little bit of a shoulder thing, but we have so many other wrestlers that can barely stand, apparently, and we allow them to go into the ring? There needs to be an investigation. It needs to happen now.
You know what else, Chris? I'll back you up on an investigation. Apparently, Adam Pearce is drinking on the job. We literally heard him on Monday say that he was going to go into office with some woman. I sound like Chris now. I didn't even know who that woman was, but he was going to go into his office with her and have a drink. So, yeah, I'm with you, Chris. I second your emotion, to quote the great Smokey Robinson. We should investigate Adam Pearce.
All right, so we are a pro-Sheamus podcast and apparently an anti-Adam Pearce, anti-establishment.
No.
Really.
I'm not anti-Adam Pearce. I just want to make sure he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. Maybe there's somebody applying pressure to my guy Pearce. That's what I'm saying, investigation.
Ooh. We talked a little bit about Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. They had a showcase match against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. It was what it was. A couple botches here and there, but Cargill and Belair continue to roll with the tag team championships. This is where they need to be if they're not going to have a huge storyline on people that you're going to showcase. And I think that's fine with that. That's fine with that.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, are we really happy with the turn that Indy Hartwell made? Because to be honest with you, Jimmy, I could have told a little bit more story with those two low-level mid-carders, like sort of fighting one another, right? Trying to win.
Oh, for sure.
Should we be a good tag team? Should we be a bad team? And all of a sudden, Indy one day just completely snapping and saying, all right, I'm going to be bad like you, and I'm going to change my wardrobe and just be a complete shit the entire match. Like, it just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was bummed to see that out of Indy. Because, I mean, the roster's full. But as we just talked about, two of the biggest stars on the card are gone. There's a lot of room for somebody, and why not Indy Hartwell? She's big.
Any of our viewers right now, if you want to chime in, how do you think the king and queen of the ring went? Any other storylines you want to talk about, please throw it in the chat. Tweet at us. We are here. We are live. We will answer your questions. We will continue to answer the Sami Zayn, Chad Gable feud that will never end. It kind of ended like we thought it would, except for Bronson Reed got the pin there by Sami Zayn. I think Gable and Zayn are going to have a knockdown drag out, but I don't see Gable winning the Intercontinental belt, Chris. I really don't see that happening.
Yeah, no, I really think that we would have been benefited as wrestling fans for Bronson Reed to have won this belt and then continue on with a Gable Sami Zayn feud that doesn't really need a belt involved to make that feud worthwhile and for us to pay attention to.
It's a fight for the soul of Otis, Jim.
Yeah, that was my next thing going to you, Rod. Like, what are we doing with Otis now? Otis is a little, I don't know, conflicted, if you will.
But here's what I worry about with Otis, right? And like, I'm not putting Otis on the level of these two other wrestlers, okay? But I do like Otis an awful lot. But it's
Shawn
a little,
Michaels?
sorry, it's a little yes movement, Kofi movement though, in a mini way, right? Like the fans are just kind of going nuts for Otis because they love Otis, but they don't really want Otis to be a big time guy that's gonna have a lot of.
How about a Cesaro movement?
There you go.
That's a little bit more akin to that.
Love the Swiss
I know he was
superstar.
fantastic. He's in the other one now, but that's okay. Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan, the big story coming out of here. Two things: Becky Lynch's contract expired, and Dom Mysterio tries to help Becky Lynch beat Liv Morgan, but it backfired. Rod? Did it?
Perfect.
Did it
It's
backfire?
perfect. It's perfect use of our guy Dom Mysterio. I
It
texted you
is.
immediately on Saturday afternoon after it happened that I was disappointed in the both of us for not sniffing that out. It's perfect. It just continues to amaze me at the wonderful, wonderful work Dom Mysterio puts in and the spots the WWE continues to put him in. How he is essentially the glue that holds so many different storylines together, and they can get heat any way they need to just by involving Dom Mysterio in one way or another is kind of amazing. And shout out to Dom.
Chris, is that are you buying this Dom Liv Morgan Rhea Ripley triangle here?
I'm buying everything that Dom is selling. All right, I don't care. He could be selling me bathwater. I'm still going to buy it. I am, like Rod said, constantly blown away by how much heat he continues to get. All right, I came back. Dom was still Dom, Ray's son, who looked like he shouldn't even be out there, and he was just there as a nepo baby, and he is anything
Nepo
but.
baby. That's awesome. I haven't heard Nepo baby before. Continue. I'm sorry. That's amazing.
Like, he's anything but that now, because he is by far the hottest thing in the WWE as far as generating heat wherever he goes and whatever he does, because it's going to blow up in his face and we're going to love it, and it's going to make his life worse, and that's going to make us love that even more. So bring it on.
Well, let's
So
be clear.
are-
He is a
sorry,
Nepo
Rob.
baby. All right. I mean, he
Oh,
is a
no
Nepo
question.
baby. He's definitely not getting a shot at the WWE if his name's not Mysterio, but he's performing very, very well.
So are we then going to have to revisit the hot list, the heat list coming up again? Is Dom Mysterio going to go back up to the top here in a few months?
You guys do this every time. You guys do this every time. We have a hot list and you guys just immediately want to put Dominic Mysterio to the top of it. And I'm not against you because I too get excited when I see that dirty little mustache come across my TV screen. But like, let's just relax, guys. Let's see where it goes. If he absolutely breaks away from mommy and starts talking shit to her while he's making out with Liv Morgan at the top of Gorilla, then absolutely he's going to be the number one on the heat list.
Oh, it's going to be so good. So right now we do have some storylines brewing. We do have, as Chris King said, we have the matchup between Damian Priest.
Wait a
and your
minute.
boy-
Wait
yeah.
a minute, Jimmy. How have
Yeah.
we gone 23 minutes into the podcast and you guys have not given me my flowers for 100% calling what they are going to do with Braun Breaker? I literally said the man is going to be pissed off that he wasn't allowed in the King of the Ring tournament and he is just going to wreak havoc. And what have we seen out of him since then, Jimmy?
Well, if you would have been listening earlier, we talked about it, Rod, but you just left.
Oh, was that the malfunction time? See,
Yeah, that
that's
was
of course.
malfunction.
You guys are giving me my flowers and I can't even hear it. That's of course.
How dare he though? Why that match, Rod, is what I asked Chris. Why that match of all matches?
Because it always happens to Ricochet.
That's valid. I hate that. Well, we do have, like I said, we do have a lot of storylines coming up. We've got not Sheamus. We've got Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. We have Gunther going to SummerSlam. We have Nia Jax going to SummerSlam against Bayley, probably. A lot of interesting things coming up over the next couple of months. Plus, we have Money in the Bank, which is one of my favorite pay-per-views. It's probably, it's the third best pay-per-view overall, just because you never know what can happen. Very excited there. Anything before we go to the fast break, Chris?
L.A. Knight is back. He would also be on the heat list.
Ooh, Rod, I don't know. Pretty soon, pretty quick on that one.
Listen, LA Knight is garnering a lot of respect from me, which helps out on the Morgan podcasting network. Funny how that kind of works around here, but if you're high on my list, you usually make your way up our list on overall all of the podcasts. So that's good for LA Knight. And shout out to my guy, Corey Graves. All right, sounding better and better week after week as the main voice on Friday Night SmackDown.
And with that, you've been listening to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the Morgan Knows podcasting network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Chris, and Rod.
Goodbye, net. Yeah.
To the fast break, the fastest 15 minutes in the NBA. Jimmy, Rod, and Chris are here, and we've got to go to it. He's the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. No one's talking about his dribbling. Everyone's talking about his shooting, especially all Indiana Pacers fans. We've got to go to the person who knows more about this than anybody. Chris King, how sad are you that the Pacers got killed by Jaylen Brown and the Celtics?
If you would have told me before the series started that I was going to have to worry about Jaylen Brown beating us, I don't think I would have believed you. I never had thought that Jaylen Brown would be the absolute detriment to an opposing team. Usually he helps the other team win a game or two in the series.
Whoa! Yeah, keep talking, Chris. All right, Rod. I apologize. I'm surprised you're not wearing a Jaylen Brown jersey. Maybe it hasn't come in yet. I know it was only a couple days ago. You are wearing Larry Legend as always. Rod is a huge Boston Celtics fan. This must have been a terrific time for you because your boy, our boy, Jaylen Brown, earned that contract this series.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, the Boston Celtics are the most disrespected 12-2 team rolling into the NBA Finals that we have ever seen. All right. The Boston Celtics can't do anything about the opponents in front of them. All right. This isn't a Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding situation. All right. We didn't send goons from the Southie in Boston to hurt all these guys on the other teams. All right. They got hurt. What are the Celtics supposed to do except take care of business? And they did. What is the question we asked ourselves about the Celtics? Can they operate in stressful situations at game's end? Well, guess what? They just won 3 games in the Eastern Conference Finals where the other team, within 5 minutes left to go, had a 90% chance to win the game. All right. You could say that the Pacers faltered, but the Celtics also had to make the plays to win the games. They have another full week off before they play next week. The big man should be coming back. I really, really like the Celtics' chances. Now, NBA history has taught us that the baddest man on the court sometimes means the difference in the series. And unfortunately, the Celtics will not have the baddest man on the court if they are to take on the Dallas Mavericks. So that worries me, as well as a karma situation involving another player on the Dallas Mavericks who maybe used to play for the Celtics. But I don't really want to get into that now.
This is going to be the greatest show-long story. I mean, this is years in the making. Kyrie and the Celtics. However, Chris, another close game. The Mavericks lost to the T-Wolves. Now, can the T-Wolves be that team? 155-0, I think, after coming up 3-0. Can the T-Wolves be that team to overtake the Mavericks?
No.
Fair enough. Thank you.
They can't. They can't. No, as much as I have liked what Minnesota has done this year, I do really like their team. Luka has been on another level this entire playoff run, and there's certain things you don't bet against. All right, you don't bet against Tom Izzo in March. Well, I'm not going to bet against Luka Doncic in May. All right, that's just how it's going to be.
You don't spit into the wind, and you don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Jim.
The Lone Ranger. Good times. Karl Anthony Towns had the game of his life, and still, Rod, I was watching with my daughter, Izzy, and as soon as he got that 5th foul, we both looked at each other and said, Luka's going to find him and get that 6th foul. And I've had it with a lot of things in the NBA. This freaking out and begging and almost coming to tears because you thought there was no foul. You jumped into him after he shot faked you. I mean, it was the easiest foul ever. Everyone in that stadium knew it was going to happen. If you get that kind of game from Towns, and he was on fire. He even shot one shot that was really stupid and didn't go in. But he had the game of one of the games of his life. It's not going to happen again, Rod. I don't think they're going to come back. I think it's going to end the next game. I think it's going to end in 5.
Listen, I don't want to be a Karl Anthony Towns supporter here, but he actually played very well in that Denver series. There was a lot of games where he came to show up and people didn't think he could do that. So Cat's definitely a roller coaster. Unfortunately, you have to use the word stupid when you're describing Karl Anthony Towns' game because of shot selection and times that he commits fouls at half court and things of all that nature. But, GB, I'd like to go back to the very play you're talking about, all right? Because, again, I am a Celtics fan, as you so eloquently described. And so
yes.
I'm looking forward to the possible finals here. Karl Anthony Towns definitely was foolish for jumping towards Luka Doncic.
Yes.
not forget Luka Doncic jumped sideways to make sure that he banged into Karl Anthony Towns, and he was told by the NBA that they were going to do something about that because they said we're not going to have jump shooters not going on their natural jump shot motion and still getting fouls, but yet Luka can veer completely to the left and get a foul against Karl Anthony Towns. Now that's Towns, but I'm just worried about that call versus my Celtics, Jimmy, because Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Dennis. Who's Dennis?
Dennis Johnson? DJ? He's still there? What?
Oh gosh!
What?
You the fact that you're on here worried about calls going Boston's way is about ridiculous.
Look at this.
All right.
Look at your boy.
The fact that your Eastern Conference Finals MVP can essentially sumo punch a player in the face and barely get a slap on the wrist, and you're worried about Boston not getting foul calls?
Was he called for a foul on that play, Chris? Was he called for a foul on that play?
I said barely a slap on the wrist is what he got.
I mean, what did you want? You wanted him drawn and cornered right there on the court? Did you want him not to be able to play in the next game?
No, I want them to call the fouls that they have been calling all season long, which is when you hit a player in the face.
Though. They've changed, man. They've changed.
What about when your boy Isaiah Jackson kicked somebody in the face? He just got a regular foul for that.
Yeah, that wasn't right either. I didn't say anything about that. What is this whataboutism that you always throw out?
Oh, whataboutism.
Giving me a whataboutism against a team that you just swept? I'm just talking about foul calls and things going Boston's way. Give me what about Isaiah Jackson? What about a bench player from that team we just swept?
I will say we need to figure out what's going on. There are so many hard fouls that aren't called just for whatever reason, and then so many other fouls that are in any game. It's better because we're not stopping as much for sure, but also people are going to get pissed and get hurt a lot more just because there's going to be more fights, and they got to figure out something to do because it's kind of ridiculous at this point. That's my Jim Demnation on that one there. Chris King, Indiana Pacers, had a terrific season. Really did. What are some things that you want to see from next year's Pacers team?
A secondary rim protector.
Okay.
Maybe get another power forward or somebody that can give us a little bit more rebounding grit. I mean, we have a good, solid team. We made the right move getting Pascal on the team at the trade deadline. Listen, we had the lead in 3 of these 4 games we lost. We had the lead in the last minute of the game. All right. Yeah. This is a good Indiana team. We need to shore up our defense and rebounding a little bit, and we can be right back there.
Shore up your you mean get a defense? Is that something that
we weren't quite the worst in the league? We were 24th, so there's some teams out there that were worse.
Thank you. Yes, there are some teams that are worse. But my question here is, and we are a lot of Pacers here, and we are going to talk about the Celtics again as well. But I think Miles Turner's hurting you again because let's say that the Pacers want that secondary. Well, who are you going to go get? Jarrett Allen from Cleveland? He's available. He'll be available, and he would help your defense a lot. But then you got those 2 big guys. We've kind of been there before with the Pacers, haven't we?
Well, I think if another big guy comes to town, Miles Turner's got to go because the salary is going to help facilitate that, and you're going to have a big salary attached to Pascal coming into next year. Tyrese's extension is going to kick in soon. So, I mean, the tax is the tax, but, Simon is not one of the richest owners in the NBA. So the Pacers are going to have a budget crunch at some point. So if you move for a guy like Allen, I actually kind of like that move, Jim, because Allen's mostly known as a defender, but he's also a rim runner. And I think Tyrese is actually better with the rim runner than he is with the pick and pop guy, which is actually what he's had to mold himself into with Miles. So I'd be behind that as a secondary Pacers fan, right? Like I want to stress that. I feel bad that my Celtics had to go up against the Pacers. Any other team that the Pacers would have lost to, I'd be right here participating in the fan fest with you guys, but they just happen to go up against the Celtics.
They did. And I think that we need to look at the Timberwolves as well. And we need to say, how is Rudy Gobert again the defensive player of the year when, I haven't watched too much Timberwolves except for the past couple weeks. I don't see it, Rod. Can you help me out here? Like he's taken them out of so many games. I don't know if it's worth it.
So give me the guy in the NBA that's not going to get cooked by Luka Doncic at the top of the key, 1-on-1, right? With Luka
Okay. Yeah.
dribbling. You
Yeah.
know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I went to France, so I guess you could consider me a friend
You
of the
did
French
third
people.
grade.
Yeah, well,
Let's
no, not third
go.
grade.
Or
I was a
whenever.
little older than a third grader, but I have been to France. But I, I think Rudy Gobert catches a little bit too much grief, man. I think that there's, with Chris talks about this an awful lot. It's a team sport. It can't ever be just one guy's fault. So I think Rudy does his job above and beyond the call of duty. But there's not many guys that are going to stop Luka Doncic. There's not a whole lot of guys that are going to stop Jamal Murray. There's also not a whole lot of guys that are going to stop Jokic, right? Like these are the people that we've seen get cooked by Rudy Gobert. Like, shocker. The level of competition in the Western Conference Finals and the Western Conference Semifinals is high, and those guys have some serious skill to them. And the man who was named the Defensive Player of the Year couldn't stop him. Like, I'm not going to cook Rudy Gobert.
Okay. Somebody else on the T-Wolves, Chris. Ant Edwards. You've seen every single. Well, you saw the first NBA game. So you've been around a little bit. Do you see his ascension starting where he's going to then become an upper echelon like everyone else has already crowned him? Or are we still a little nervous about Ant Edwards?
So, anytime that you have a player as young as Edwards is and who is succeeding as much as he is, you're going to have a little bit trepidation. What you hope is that he still continues to have that drive and that desire to continuously improve and win more. That type of drive that Michael had, the type of drive that Kobe had. I do think Ant has a little bit of that in him. I hope that he continues to have it. And I think if he continues to have that, then by far we're going to have a legitimate superstar for years to come.
Could be for sure. Rod, thoughts on Ant Edwards?
My thoughts on Ant Edwards actually have to go a little deeper and a little wider to the Minnesota Timberwolves as an organization. Our good buddy Wu-Tang, who it's been too long since he's appeared on the network. Shout out to Wu if he's listening. We need you back on sometime soon, my guy. But he always talks about culture, right? He talks about culture of teams, and the Minnesota Timberwolves don't have a great culture. They don't have a great history. A lot of that's for a reason. And we've kind of been able to gloss over this situation because we've been awash in the glow of the playoffs. But like, there's about to be a dirty, long-drawn court fight for ownership of the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? These guys paid Glenn Taylor a bunch of money, thought they were taking the team over. Right at the last minute, Glenn Taylor pulls the rug out from underneath them, but they paid a whole bunch of money to still be minority owner. There's going to be a fight. Salaries are going to have to be cut. So I think, unfortunately, Ant Edwards' future relies a little bit more upon the Minnesota Timberwolves than it even does his trajectory, which I love how Chris is pointing out that sometimes it's not exactly straight linear for younger guys.
Yeah, I like that as well. A couple of things. We need to talk about that foul, though, on Luka on that three-pointer in the last, what minute of the game, 2 minutes of the game, where of all the things in the world you do not foul on a three-pointer, and it's Luka. So of course he made the three. That was amazing. That was an insane shot by Luka.
Weak foul call, man. I mean, you were talking about it before.
That was weak.
It's part of the problem, right? You can see what Chris is irate about, that Jaylen Brown hit a guy in the face and nothing happened to him. And then you see Luka barely get touched and he goes to the free throw line. But shout out to the great Rasheed Wallace. Ball don't lie. What happened when Luka went to the free throw line? Missed the free throw.
And Lively being out is really hurting too. That was a pretty bad hit to the head. And of course, in the NBA, you just walk them up and take them to the side, and everything will be fine in a couple of days.
Just put them on the sidelines with all the bright lights and the yelling and the screaming in an NBA arena. That's fine.
It's fine. No issues whatsoever there. So let's just be careful on that. Nothing really much else going on. We do have a couple of coaching vacancies. Bronny is staying in the draft. And the final thing, the biggest news, is LeBron James will test the free agent market. Rod, as of this date right now, what team is LeBron James on next year?
The Los Angeles Lakers.
Chris King, what team is he on?
Whatever team drafts Bronny.
So the Los Angeles Lakers it is. And Jimmy, that is,
I think,
yes.
Jimmy, I think we'd be remiss here if we don't close with a shout out to somebody I never met, but it kind of feels like I met them. I I got to admit, man, I don't know if it's getting older and having people in my life pass away but like I was hit hard when Bill Walton passed away the other day. Like I found myself tearing up a little bit, and like I just couldn't help but have this thought. Here's a man who radiated positivity at all times, and you just saw the outpouring of all of these people that Bill Walton touched in his life. And I couldn't help but think, there's too many times in my life where I'm not that nice to people that I encounter. And you look around and you see all these news stories about how we're inundated with hate and people not being nice to one another. And I just was really, really sad the other day that perhaps the one champion, the one agreed upon person by all of us in our split apart days we live in could agree upon was a source of light and good in the universe was taken away from us. And I found myself being really, really sad the other day. Shout out to the Walton family. Bill, you were great as an announcer on the NBA on NBC back in the day when I first started watching NBA basketball and listening to podcasts all these days. My wife loves the Grateful Dead. She's got a connection to Bill Walton through that. I mean, just an amazing life he lived. And I want to echo what Scott Van Pelt said. When I see light out there in the world, I'm just going to assume that's Bill Walton floating through the universe.